It was 3 days later, yet the Graham pack was still celebrating the birth of the 2 beautiful daughters of their alpha, who was beyond overjoyed himself. The pack was filled with music, a feast and dance, as the night poured away with laughter echoing all through the air, showing that nothing but better days were coming ahead. The drinks kept coming, were ale drank as if there was no tomorrow, with the music turned even higher. It was the first night the Luna had joined the celebration after having had such a difficult labor. She sat on her high chair next to her chosen mate with their hands intertwined. Her skin was still pale, but the smile on her face was nothing but genuine. Many had cursed that they would suffer until death after Alpha Graham rejected his true mate to mate with her. Everyone had wished nothing but the worst for them, yet there they were, in love, happy and having been blessed with 2 beautiful daughters. The Luna picked up her head, scoffing internally, knowing that some of the people before them were jealous to no end, cursing over and over, but how would that help since she got everything she wanted? She snared an alpha and gave him not 1 but 2 daughters that would bring more wealth and status in the pack by marrying right. Her head tipped, thinking of all the families her children could marry into that would bring nothing but more fortune to them. At the top of the list were the royals, but that was a far-fetch even for her. No one had seen the 3 princes since their birth. No one even knew if they were still alive, but one could only hope. Next on that list was the son of Alpha Herbwolf, who came from one of the wealthiest packs they had in the area. A smile spread over her face. She had many more years to plan for her daughters, because for sure by the age of 18, they would both be married off. And maybe she was still to give her chosen mate a son. She would. There was nothing that would stop her from opening her legs for her mate and give him a boy which would carry the family line. It was a good start with the twins, but more was to come. The Graham Luna beamed where she was. Nothing but a good life waiting for her. Her eyes snapped away from where she was staring, seeing the nurse run to her with her hair flowing away, sweat coating her forehead. The Luna sighed, rolling her eyes, for she knew the nurse was coming to bring more stress for her. She did not need that. Couldn't they just leave her alone? She had already given birth. What more did they want seriously? People turned, seeing the nurse tear through the dancing area, with nothing but tears rolling down her face. Her skin red. The Alpha and Luna, seeing this, sat up in their chairs, with the Alpha rising to his feet to hear what had the nurse in such distress. The nurse threw herself at the mercy of the Alpha, weeping her heart out with her head bowed down, words fumbling out of her mouth over and over again. The whole pack went silent, the nurse raising her head with hands clutched together, looking at the Alpha fade away on the face to spill the words that rocked the whole pack. I don't. The nurse could not even finish. She could not understand it herself. She had been there. She had been sitting right there. 1 minute the lights flickered, and when she peeped in the crib, the baby that was laying there next to the eldest twin was not Thyra. The Alpha did not have to be told twice. He ran with all he had, tearing through his people to get to his babies. He loved those girls with all he had, and ever since he held their petite frames in his arms, he swore to protect them even beyond the grave if that was possible. He pushed the door to the nursery open. The other nurses there staring into the crib with tears streaming down their faces. His heart seemed as if it would stop, for, as soon as he walked in, he knew something was wrong and could smell the darkness in the air with each step. So much darkness he could taste it. His eyes closed when he reached the edge on the crib. His eyes opened to find his first daughter sleeping, and next to her was a baby he could not recognize. A baby that looked so foreign, and those deep red eyes stared at him as if seeing into his soul. His heart shuddered just as the baby smiled and giggled as if laughing at him. His fists clenched, only to unclench with his head, turned back as he howled so loud. All the nearing packs came running. Raven! I jumped as soon as I heard the voice, my head turning right and left, contemplating on just running away to hide. My heart was not taking the situation lightly, oppression as if to tear from my chest and fall on the ground for Alyssa to step on and crush. What joy it would bring her! I rolled my eyes, sighing with me rushing to meet her, before she found my secret hiding spot. My body was covered in nothing but sweat, quickly wiping it away with my t-shirt to pull it over my head, covering my upper body along with my sports bra. My feet were dirty with mud. No time to rush to the river to wash them off. The fact that I have to walk off this far to come get you just makes me so mad. You better show your face before my shoes get dirty, or we will have a problem. Alyssa spoke out, hearing that she was reaching her boiling point. I sighed and moved even faster, dodging tree branches and making sure I was not leaving a trail behind me, stepping on tree roots and stones. I could already smell her overly sweet perfume where I was, just nearly having me sneeze where I was. I shook my head, wishing I could throw her in the river to wash it away. What a lovely sight that would be. I bent over a branch, raising my head with her form standing right there before me, looking so red I thought she would pop. Her arms were folded on her chest, it rising up and down with such distress, sure shit would hit the fan soon. She did not belong there. Her long hair was tied back in a middle-parted ponytail, looking so beautiful with her makeup done to perfection. But what more would you expect from her? She wore a knitted jersey with high-waisted jeans, tucking the jersey, and then white sneakers on her feet. I felt bad in a way for making her walk all this way. She gave me one look then scoffed, turning around and sighing to walk away. I bowed my head, following after her, and watching her body sway with her shaking her head now and again. Her form was tall and slim with her curves defined. She was every girl's dream, and to add to that she was very smart. I was jealous, I would not lie. Even when we were younger, she was always a shining star, and I was just there at the back with my deep red eyes, hair so dark, it was unnatural along with my shorter stature, and more of a figure no matter how hard I exercised. My head snapped from all that as we broke through the forest with the large mansion coming to view as some of the pack members strolled by. Right before the mansion was a large garden where most were seated and just enjoying the summer breeze as the sun set. It had been a hot day indeed, but the night seemed to be cool. I was sweating buckets myself, so I would know. Busy doing my things in the forest away from everyone's eyes. All eyes turned as we walked, a few people passing their greetings to Alyssa. The way she drew people to her was amazing. They all adored her. Even I kind of wished I was her. Well, minus the evil sister attitude. She was kind to everyone except me, but for that I blamed only one person who I would not say. I stopped where I was, wiping my feet on the grass to clean them, before my head rolled from my neck for dirtying the house. The Graham pack was on the top 10 of the largest and wealthiest packs in the area. It was big and beautiful, with the Alpha having spent so much money to make sure the pack looked the part. The mansion just before me was the Alpha's house. The Beta and Gamma had their own exquisite houses. The pack was well taken care of, I would not lie. A beautiful place to be in if you were a werewolf. My head bowed, just thinking of it with my heart sore. The Alpha and Luna already knew I was not a werewolf, but to make sure they had taken both of us to the forest on our 16th birthday to observe the transformation of the Alpha's daughters. Everyone had been there, all eyes on us with more whispering about me. I had never prayed so much to the moon goddess, just praying for her to please give me a wolf, because maybe everything would be better. Then, but nothing. Alyssa had turned right next to me, her bones shifting with her crying out loud. The Luna and Alpha had ran to her, holding and cooing her until she completed her first transformation. As if I was not already burning enough, her wolf was white with accents of silver, just stealing everyone's breath as I rest over and over again. I had stood there, watching the parents praise their daughter, kissing her wolf over and over again with such pride, something I would never have. It hurt so much, but I had held my smile because the fact was that I was no werewolf, and I was a stranger to all of them. An intruder in their pack and family. after all had praised Alyssa, the whole pack turned and they all took off running through the forest with me left behind, staring at their backs as they disappeared out of sight. The tears streamed down just that second, my body shaking, cursing my existence to no end. I had bowed my head, turned around to my room where I slipped in my bed, and cried so hard I thought I might rest. The memory was shaken away, looking up to see Alyssa near the door. I rushed after her, my feet clean to enter through the house. Closing the door after me, the house was so quiet you would swear there was no one, but sure there were. "Can I rush to take a shower before coming to dinner?" I politely asked Alyssa with her turning where she was, staring at me with her face morphing into one of disapproval before flicking her hand at me. I did not even waste a second. I rushed up the stairs to my room to take a shower, my hands so fast with my heart drumming, just thinking of what the Luna would say with me late. I ran out of the bathroom, applying some deodorant, and just jumping into jeans and a t-shirt followed by slippers. I ran out, the door closed behind me to literally jump down the steps. My hair was flying all over my back, heaving until I got to the last step, knowing I was in a lot of trouble from then. I stopped right before the door. I knew they had smelt me coming, damn werewolves, and their sensitive noses. I took a deep breath, making sure I was presentable to push the door open and walk in. My head was bowed, staring at my feet with my toes clean of all the dirt. I would not lie and say the Graham had not taken care for me. They had. I had food, I had clothes and a roof over my head, and I was forever grateful, but I just wished I was their child. That would be better. I wished I belonged. I wished I had a wolf to turn to and run all over the forest. The pain struck, swallowing it back and rushing to chair, which I pulled back and took a seat. The Alpha and Luna were already there along with the Beta, Gamma and their mates. It was just me. The shame was too much, sitting down not wanting to disturb their conversation. The help was plating food with me, the last to have my plate filled with food. My appetite for food was nothing compared to everyone in the pack, even the little children. I actually did not like it at all. I loved natural foods like fruits and vegetables. Eating them just brought nothing but joy for me. My plate was filled, thanking Sandra with her giving me an eye before turning and walking away. Everyone began eating with me, doing the same while avoiding eye contact with anyone else. Alyssa was right beside me, eating her food while chatting with everyone else. If you saw me with my family, you would say I was deaf, for I never spoke. I just kept my mouth shut and took in whatever I was told. I did not talk a lot, really. Who would I talk with anyway? No one liked me in the pack, not even in the slightest. The amount of bullying I had received, as soon as I knew what bullying was too much. Even those having hearts deciding to let go and let it all be. It was just me and my imagination, along with my inner voice. He was in the mountains, hidden there. Who knows what His Majesty went through? The Beta female said, having my head pick up, wondering who they were talking about. He is the last of the royals. News say that Prince Regan vanished himself, and that they found Prince Carl lying in a pool of crimson glow, not knowing what vanished him. The Beta said with my eyes moving to him, well, the Crown Prince came back and was crowned king just many moons back. The Alpha said, me not even daring to stare at him. I don't know why, but somehow just staring at him brought so much pain than I had ever felt in my life through everything. In my existence, we had never exchanged even a single word. In my existence, we barely looked at each other. He pretended as if I did not exist, and I tried to make it easy on him, but it was hard. In a way, I felt drawn to him in a way I could not explain. In a way, I felt more betrayed by him than anyone else in the family. And I did not know why. Alyssa, your engagement to the Grey has been called off. They understood. We are all trying to do the best for our packs. The king is looking for a queen, and since royals do not have given mates, They pick for themselves. Then the moon goddess blesses whoever they pick to be their true mate. If things go well, he will be here in the coming week to look over our females. Alpha Graham continued with me, daring to turn and steal a glance at Alyssa. Her fork was slowly placed down, a smile on her face as she stared at her father with her eyes shining. My heart just shattered with me swallowing. She deserved to be queen, and staring at her, I could see that she was meant to be a queen. The way she carried herself was one of sophistication and elegance. How could she not be a queen when her mother had trained her to be a Luna since she was 5? All her life she had been trained to be nothing less than perfection, in every way. The way she spoke was just breathtaking, and even the way she carried herself was something else. I was happy for her seriously, yet I could not help but be jealous of the life she had. She had 2 parents that adored her, which was all I wanted, but I knew she was not happy. First of all, she had to reject her true mate, because to her parents he was not good enough. Being a beta's son was okay, but her mother had planned more for her, so she had done as told and rejected her true mate. I bit my lip, placing the spoon down, recalling how broken she had looked, no matter the smile she always placed on her face. I could never imagine the pain she had went through yet. I would say it made her so strong. She was a woman I could look up to, if not for her basically making my life a living hell. All the pain she felt, she took it out on me in any way she could. I understood though. In a way I understood, and I forgave her for everything she did and was to do, but still. It hurt. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Mother. I will not disappoint, she said with her sweet voice. Her head held up high. This is what you were born for, Alyssa. You are a queen. I can see it now. You were meant to sit next to the werewolf king, my beautiful daughter. How can you not with such beauty? The alpha said, hearing the emotions in his voice with my head bowing even lower. Thank you, Father. I would not be the person I am if not for both you and Mother, she said back, her hand going up to wipe her tears away, then sit up in her chair controlling her emotions. You deserve all the best things this world can give. Don't worry, child. The king is yours. The alpha said back, the moment special for the family. Alyssa stood up, walking to her father to hug him and kiss his cheek, then her mother. She was most close with her father. The Luna was not much sentimental. She was all about business and nothing else. Congratulations, Alyssa. There is no doubt you will be our next queen. The beta said with his mate agreeing, all smiles, happy and excited. The conversation went on as they talked about the preparations for the arrival of the king. It would be grand, of course, throwing a ball at night for him, hoping he would stay over the night. I listened, my appetite gone, not that I had any. The food was picked around until the help came to collect the plates. Since I am leaving, what about Raven? The sound of my name from Elisa's mouth had me cold where I was. When my name slipped from her mouth, it meant nothing good. The room fell silent. Feeling the eyes on me. What about her? The Luna asked, hearing the distaste in her voice. I cursed Elisa as I sat there. Could she just leave me alone for just one day? She can't stay in this house forever, eating our food and running off to wherever she spends her days these days. I closed my eyes to open them, trying to will the anger and pain away, yet it too deep. The wound had been created long ago, and every day it grew bigger. No way for it to heal. Why couldn't Alyssa just leave me alone, please? I felt the tears swell in my eyes, only to blink them back, for I learned long time ago that even if I cried crimson glow, no one would care. The silence was so loud, it had my ears ringing. I wanted to disappear and rest right there. No one would want her, but we can't be stuck with her forever yet. Who would want her? The Luna spat out. Hearing the words hit hard, as if swords thrown at me and piercing my skin. Maybe one of the men who lost their mates would be interested. She isn't much, but she is still a woman after all. My sister chirped in as always, just nailing me to my death. The only man who has lost his mate in this pack is Ray, and since the loss, he is not really in the right mind, Alyssa. You know that, plus he is older even than me. The alpha spoke. The first time he ever contributed something on a matter concerning me. My whole body was shaking, feeling so cold where I was, fighting the tears that were fighting their way down my eyes. Then what, Dad? You will keep her here then, her burdened children and their burdened children. Haven't you raised her already? Haven't you given her a lot? It's time for her to leave us alone. She has caused enough pain already. Alyssa pointed out, her voice firm with her not backing down. Alyssa is right. It's time she leaves this family. She has done enough already. The Luna added, with all the others quiet where they were. No one said anything after, knowing the alpha had the last say in all that. My head tipped up for I wanted to see him. I wanted to stare and see what he was thinking, but I was so scared. What had I done in life to get such a fate? I wished I could shudder and rest. My eyes fell on the alpha, with my chest moving up and down violently. I was begging him with all I had. Sure, my eyes were saying it all, my heart out, begging for him not to do this, please. His eyes were on mine, him staring at me directly with the world seeming to stop for a minute. It had been the first time I looked straight into his eyes, and the warmth I felt from it was something else. It was some kind of bond. Like a father and daughter bond. He seemed taken away for a second as he stared at me. But then he snapped his eyes away, his hand going through his hair. We will tell Ray after the king's visit. It's Alyssa's time. Let's concentrate on her. The alpha said, my eyes not moving from him with the tears falling. I stared at him as if he would collapse and rest right there with everything shaking all around him as my head throbbed so hard. I felt as if someone was drilling through my brain. I felt whatever that was there snap, nothing but anger taking over me. Anger and hatred so deep it had me scared with me heaving where I was. I was sure my eyes were turning black with each second that was passing, deciding to push my seat back and run from there. I tore through the door, barely seeing anything as I heaved, the anger pushing me to run faster. My slippers fell away, running to the forest with nothing but darkness, taking me in and surrounding me. I ran so hard and fast until I could not run anymore, collapsing on the forest floor with my arms under my head as I cried so hard, wishing for nothing but death. News came with each passing day that the king had still not picked a girl from any of the packs he visited, and each day he got closer and closer to our pack. Our pack would be the last after going through all the other packs in the whole werewolf realm. It had been a couple of long weeks for him, I was sure, but it only meant he was searching for something in particular, and he had not met it yet. It only meant what the Alpha and Luna said was true. Alyssa was meant for this because it seemed really impossible that the king could go over all 3,000 packs and not find just one girl he could see as his queen. It was impossible, seriously. The pack was getting so excited it was too much for me in my wallowing. I spent all my time in the forest. I felt more connected to it in a way, more than the wolves if that was possible, and I loved it, especially at night. There was nothing I loved more than darkness. In a way it felt like home. In a way it comforted me so much, and the darkness in me seemed to be sated when I was in nothing but darkness. Just one last night, then the king would be there to take away his beautiful bride, where they would live happily ever after. I shook my head, cursing the days for going so fast. When Alyssa was gone, her parents would sell me off to the old angry pack warrior that would find nothing but pleasure in making my life one filled with nothing but pain. Losing a mate was one thing that was so painful nearly all never survived it. They got so ill they rest or vanished themselves in insanity. But Ray had done none. He had just become more brutal from the loss of his sanity. There was no way I was mating with him. There was no way I was getting tied with him. I shook my head, seeing no option but to run away. I knew I did not belong in their world, knew I was not one of them. But there surely had to be more to my life than suffering all throughout. If I mated that awful man, I would vanish myself seriously. I would go insane just from it and vanish myself. There was nothing left for me than to pack my bag and leave the only home I knew. I knew the world was dangerous out there with rogues and vampires lurking in the shadows. But I had to take that risk. I would rather rest searching for some happiness in my life. Searching for a place I could belong than rest in the pack from all the abuse I would endure. The bright lights could be seen from where I was, the pack having a celebration on how the king would grace their presence the following day. It was a great honor to be in the presence of the king. Very few got the opportunity, especially because the royal family was facing many problems and threats themselves with their circle very tight. According to the news going around, long time ago King Stone was cursed along with his whole Crimson Glow line, that they would know nothing but pain, war, insanity, and death. And it seemed the news were true because in the last year the pack sent away 500 warriors to the royal pack, along with all the other packs. The war between the werewolves, vampires and rogues was one I had been born to find yet, since we were not in the front lines. No one really talked nor cared about it. Since people were living their lives in the comfort of their packs while the war went on in the southern land where the royal pack was, my head turned, tired of crying with me sighing, and closed my eyes. I would sleep there for the night. I could not bear to hear the laughter with everyone happy, except for me. I closed my eyes, bringing the image of the two people I had created in my head as my parents. I dreamed of the life I would have had there. They surely would have loved me, surely would have wanted nothing but the best for me. I would look like my mother but have some features from my father. Maybe I would have siblings that would love me as much as I love them, and we would hug each other when we were sad until we felt better. I dreamt of the life where I had my own mate, one who loved me for who I was no matter what. Together we would have children and our parents would visit now and again, or we would visit them. It was a beautiful life, adding to my pain for it would never happen. It would never be for me. The tears came again, letting them slip down my cheeks with my eyes closed. I don't know how long I sat there crying, but the darkness clouded me at some point. It swirled behind my eyes, and in my sleep I found nothing but comfort. It wrapped itself around me and made me feel as if everything would be better. Sleep always made everything better for me. Nothing but darkness all around me, hugging and comforting me. It was my only comfort. My eyes peeled open. The night gone with the morning finally come. The day everyone had been waiting for finally there. No one knew the time the king would arrive, so I was sure they would all be prepared early in the morning. All mothers spent all they had on their daughters for everyone, had a chance to be picked, and not just Elisa. They would all be beautiful, I was sure. And the thought of not attending was so appealing to me yet, I needed to clean up. I stood up, stretching my body, then made my way through the forest that had surely become my home. I spent most of my time hiding and training there. If anyone knew I was training myself, they would throw a fit. Yet I was not as strong as everyone else, which was why I decided to teach myself how to fight from a young age. My feet carried me out of the forest, shocked to find so many people going up and down. The gardens looked their best, the setup made there where the king would be sitting and eating. The smell of delicious food was already in the air, the alpha not having spared any cost. It would surely be a glorious event. I walked into the house, my head down, hiding from all of those wondering where I was coming from. I got to my room, going to take a shower to get out and get dressed. I pulled my hair into a tight ponytail, then I went looking around for what I would wear. My head was all over the place, contemplating of doing my escape just then. No one would pay mind to me. They would all be in the presence of the king, and then I could make my escape. A shiver ran down my body as I brushed my hands together, finally deciding on that being the best choice I had. After the king left, it would be hard to escape, especially through the border. I went to my closet to pull out my empty bag. My toiletries were thrown in along with 3 jeans, 5 t-shirts and a jersey. I wore black leggings with a long-sleeved black round neck t-shirt. My sneakers were pulled up, tying them tightly because I would be running all the way to wherever I was going. The bag was sat on the bed, going to the window to look through it. The best time to do it was when the king had arrived and they had all gathered in his presence. Then I would be able to make a run for it. My heart would not calm down, the tears crowding my eyes that I was really leaving. I could not believe it. I had thought about it for too many times yet. It seemed so scary suddenly, when all along I had done nothing but crave for it. Who knew what waited beyond the border? Who knew the hell that was waiting for me? But could it be worse than being mated to Ray? I thought not. My arms came around my waist, watching down at the garden as they turned it into a magical place meant for fairies. It was breathtaking, yet the beauty lost on me. Girls ran to the garden in their beautiful dresses, stealing my breath away. All werewolf females were tall, curvy, and lean in size, all of them. They were all beautiful and breathtaking, so as I stood there watching, it was as if seeing angels dance all around those beautiful roses. My mind trailed to Alyssa, and I could not help but want to see how she looked. I was sure they had made sure she looked like a queen. I shook my head and turned away to my bed to sit down on it and close my eyes. Whatever was in me was quiet that day. Not whispering, not as if to swallow me whole. I could feel it looming somewhere in me, yet just quiet. It scared me sometimes because I did not know what was wrong with me, and there was no one I could ask. It was just a dark force that was growing with each passing moon, and it scared me so much, for I did not know what it was and what it wanted. There was suddenly a scream outside. I stood up quickly to pull away my curtain and stare at what was happening. A group of girls were there, them jumping around, with their hands waving in the air in excitement as they stared ahead. I looked to where they were staring, seeing nothing but the guards were all running around like headless chickens, as more girls walked out of their houses to stand by the gardens, and I knew just then that the king and his people were near. My heart went crazy, not believing I was really doing this. I paced back and forth in front of the window with the tears so hot they burned my eyes, but I blinked them back. Everyone was running around, putting this and taking that. The food was rushed to the tables and it looked so good. Even the help looked nothing but stunning. Mothers ran to their daughters, making sure they were nothing but perfect. It was a sight to see if I was not in a dilemma myself. I swallowed the lump in my throat, not believing my life was turning out this way. I would be no one from there. And if I rest, no one would know or care. I paced again, going to stare at my bag, then away. The chatter got so loud, so many people panicking, not believing the day was finally there. I walked back to the window, forcing myself to stare at it all. More girls got out. So many of them, all of them so beautiful. Most of the pack members were there, all chatting in excitement with different colored dresses, coloring the view for me. The sun had not disappointed. It was a warm day, which was good, especially for those that wore body-revealing dresses. The fight was on. All had went for the vanish-in. Anyway, they thought was best. They were gunning for a king's hand in marriage, so what more would you expect? All were there. The chatter slowly falling away, and just then Alyssa came to view with all eyes turning to her. My heart dropped to the darkest pit in my stomach as I turned pale where I was. There was no way anyone could compare. Her dress was white, her hair matching it, for they had dyed it for her. She looked like an angel, with the tail of the dress tailing behind her, with her personal help holding it up for her. Her hair was pinned up with pearl pins, it shinning as if to blind me. The jealousy was too much, nearly dying from it as I saw all the girls' faces drop with nothing but defeat. It was not a fair fight. The Luna walked behind her, with the Alpha nowhere to be seen. I could not take my eyes off Alyssa. She was breathtaking, with her having stolen the show. She walked with grace, such grace one could not just learn but could only be born with. She was surely a queen, I would say. They stopped just far off everyone, her and her mother standing side by side in front. Her mother, the Luna, was also stunning. She wore a light blue dress that hugged her tight figure. She was just as beautiful as her daughter, as if children of the moon goddess herself. I shook my head, knowing there was nothing for me there. I did not belong. I turned around, taking my bag and slinging it to my back where it sat. My feet carried me back to the window, looking around to see if the king was anywhere near, and as I looked ahead, I saw the soldiers walking towards the garden. There were a lot of them, in a circle, sure that the king was there. I sighed and let out a breath. I was not sure if everyone was out of the house or if some of the help was still rushing with some dishes. I would wait until the king got there, for which I would be sure that even the guards would have left their posts to go meet the king. My weight was moved from foot to foot, my nails in my mouth, biting them with anxiety, nearly vanishing me. I thought I might faint, not even able to breathe with how rapid and hard my heart was oppression. I wanted to cry, scream, or anything, but I could do none of those things. The king and his party came closer and closer, locking my fate. They got so near I could make out the king, but next to him stood the tallest and the largest man I had ever seen in my whole cursed life. No one had to point out who the king was, with all the pack members immediately falling at their knees in his presence. It was a sight to see. Everyone on their knees bowing before the king. The soldiers around him dispersed, their eyes looking all around, scary in a way I could not explain. They did not look like men. They looked like monsters, just like him, as if mountains of beasts, ready to tear everyone apart. Their faces were marked with nothing but severe marks. My heart stopped right there, and then not even daring to stare at the king himself. I swallowed, looking at the man right next to the king. He was so scary I nearly peed myself, all of them wearing nothing but shorts and t-shirts, but that would be expected since they ran all the way through the packs for sure. My eyes could not tear from them. Gigantic and in a way beautiful monsters created for nothing but destruction. They were born in war and lived through it, you could see. No one would dare stare at them, yet there I was staring at them. So intensely my body went cold, as dark eyes stared back at me with my heart stopping right there. And then, my eyes went wide. My body freezing as the guard next to the king stared back. He frowned, then moved over to whisper something to the king. And I knew right there and then that I was fucked. I quickly ducked down, deciding it was time. I crawled through the floor to the door, which I left closed, to break into a run. Running was my strength. I had practiced it since childhood, a necessary skill learned under Alyssa's constant and harsh oppression. The stairs were nothing to me. Taking them in one setting, not sure if I was caught, but moon goddess, please not. I took a sharp turn, going for the back door to have it thrown wide open as I jumped through. I ran for the forest, tearing through the air as if chased by nothing but wolves, but I could be. The forest accepted me as its own as I jumped into it. I could not even breathe. I could not even think, with the only thing in my mind to run and never look back. The forest was dark, but darkness was my friend, as said before, and I could do everything in the dark. I could see as clearly as day, jumping up a root and pushing harder. The back forests were dark and dangerous, with most told to stay away, which was why I picked them. I was more likely succeed in them since I knew them so well. I ran with all I had, ran as if my life depended on it, but it did. There was no time to think, no time to even question my actions, yet just pushed on, leaving everything I ever knew behind, leaving the only home I knew. The pain was too much. My heart as if tearing apart with the distance ate away. I could not see anything, with everything blurry all around me. No wolf could ever compare. As if floating through air, I ran harder, something in me growing, roaring as if brought alive. I felt as my eyes turned darker, felt as the darkness took over me, whispering at me. My whole body turned cold, the tears streaming down with the fear taking over me. It felt so unnatural, felt so dark, as if to engulf me and vanish me. I tried to fight it, with my body sent down to the ground as I hit with my head on a root. The darkness slipped away, my eyes going back to normal, with the pain having me groan so hard, holding in the scream. I rolled where I was, clutching my head to let it go. I knew I could not lay there, no matter how painful it was. I knew I was still going to fall and get even more hurt. I knew I was still going to experience more than I had in the pack, and I had to be strong. I had to have thick skin and be ready for the worst. I did a flip and turned to continue running, only for the hair all over my body to soar, telling me that I was in deep trouble. My ears opened up. Listening with my run broke down to a standstill. I looked all around, then closed my eyes to listen through all the forest's natural sounds, and I heard them, a pair of feet drumming through the ground, coming my way. No one had to tell me what to do as I went running even faster than before. I thought I would spit my heart out and step on it with how hard it was drumming. I pushed on, barely even touching the ground as I ran with all I had, but I guess I was wrong. I guess there was a wolf that could catch up, for they were on my heel, tearing away the distance as my whole body shook, as if it would tear. I took a sharp turn, yet what help did that do? And dare I look back? It was my worst mistake, seeing the man on my heel, golden eyes shining with him, closing the distance faster than I would ever imagine. My heart exploded, seeing who it was, with fear taking over all my senses, nearly crying out loud. I ran faster, but to what avail? It seemed the chase excited him, for I turned back, and he was not there. I thought I would rest, my head looking all around with my ears trying to pick up where he was, but I could not slow down to do it properly, for he would pounce on me. I just closed my eyes and took a deep breath to move faster. I could not even feel the ground, the sound of air whistling in my ear as I ran as if I would rest. I had never ran that fast, moving with the air and letting my senses guide me as I ran. I knew he would vanish me if he caught me, and to make matters worse, I was not a wolf. He would vanish me there and then. No one would be there to explain for me. I could not stop. My legs hurt so bad. I knew I would fall, and just there. And then I felt him. My head dared turn, and he was there, just next to me. It happened all so fast, him turning once, sending my body flying through the air from just one nudge from him. I flew so far off, hitting the ground so painfully, my body arched with me crying out, seeing nothing but darkness. As I cried out in pain, the grim reaper there to collect my soul. He was walking all around me, sniffing, and I knew it was time before he attacked, since I was not one of his people, and to him I would be a threat. I rolled on the ground in all the pain I was in, standing up with my legs shaking as if to snap. The tears were streaming down, washing my face as I held out my hands, showing that I meant no harm. My head picked up, walking slowly in circles with him as he also circled around. His face was one morphed into nothing but confusion, dark and serious, yet I could see that in a second he would strike. Wolves did not like things they did not know, and their first instinct was to vanish, and his instincts were kicking in. I mean no harm, Your Highness, please. My name is Raven. I am no threat. I am just a girl that is running away from an undesired life. On the third day of the birth of the Alpha and Luna's twins, someone stole one twin and left me instead. I am not a werewolf. I don't know what I am. No one knows, but I would never hurt anyone. I am not dangerous. I am just a girl. Please, Your Highness. I begged, fumbling all the words once, not even sure what more I could do to stop him from attacking me. I don't even know if he heard me with how fast I was talking. My breaths harsh and loud, barely even hearing myself. I watched his face turn a shade darker, frowning as he chewed on my words before he took a step towards me. I took one back, seeing no option than to run. He was not buying it, he was attacking. I turned, running just as strong arms came around my waist. My fists went all around, knocking something on him, but he was not barging. I fought with all I had, kicking and punching, sure I would rest for what I was doing, attacking a royal, but what more could I do? Even he seemed shocked, really, his arms loosening in his disbelief. I did not wait to be told twice. I threw one kick and jumped off, running like never before. I was flying through the air, but it did not help with him gripping me by both arms, my back on him as he picked me up in the air. I kicked and screamed as he walked away as if I weighed nothing, as if I was a rag doll. He threw my body over his soldier in one swift, with my head looking upside down. The tears rolled down my eyes with my body shaking, knowing there was no way out from there. Alpha Graham would tell them to vanish me after the stunt I pulled, and I would be fade away just like that. It was all over. My life was over. I cried harder, literally crying hard and loud for my life, for all my misfortune. I cried until I was just hiccuping, done with everything. I did not care. Maybe death was better. Maybe I would be better off. My sob fell away with sniffles and sighs now and again, raw in every way. I was done. Seriously, I was done. We broke through the forest after some time. The distance I had ran grand. I had been so near to the border. If not for the stupid king, I would be free. But maybe, just maybe it was better I rest now than later while being chewed by some scary animal or rogues. The grass was green, feeling the tears come again as they burned my eyes. I shook my head thinking I had accepted my fate. But I guess not. It was too painful for me to accept. Just like that, I would rest not knowing where I came from. I would rest not knowing if there had been anyone that had been searching for me. Just like the Grahams searched for their missing daughter, for years on years. The tears streamed with no sound coming from me. Hearing the gasps knowing we had reached the whole pack. I did not care. I just wanted it all to end at that point. I did not care anymore. My body was placed down, sitting as I quickly pulled my legs to cross under me, with my head bowed. I did not even want to look up to see the shook and hatred in everyone's eyes. I had ruined their day. It was supposed to be about them, and there I was crushing on their happiness. Of course it's her! Of course it's you, Raven! Alyssa spoke out, hearing the anger in her voice. Sure, if the king was not there, she would drag me by my hair until I begged for forgiveness. I was shaking, just wanting them to end it all, just wanting them to finish it all for me. I could not bear through all the hate, all through the abuse. I was done. Throwing the towel, and just done. My body rocked back and forth, my eyes closed as the tears dried on my cheeks. Numb, totally numb. The world was closed away from me, seeing nothing but darkness before my eyes. It brought some peace on me, all the pain whisked away, leaving nothing but peace, as the darkness swirled all before my closed eyes. Raven. What is this? I knew who it was, my eyes flickering wide open, not able to resist the edge to stare at the alpha with his voice near the edge. Sure, if he did not have an audience, he would have showered me a side of him I had not seen yet. My head tipped up to stare at him, not sure what I was feeling. I looked up to him as my father, even though he was not, even though he never acknowledged me at all. Somehow, a part of me had attached to him from a very young age. I had tried to please when I was younger, tried to be the best at everything, so he would look at me even once, but with the years ticking away, I took it that he wanted nothing to do with me, that he was not interested in even knowing me. He lost a child because of me, and they all cursed me for it. I stared at him for the longest time as he stared back at me with such hate. It broke my heart, but I swallowed and looked away with my head bowed. There was nothing left there for me. What is the meaning of this? I am sorry, Your Majesty. She is no one. She was left in the pack as a baby when my daughter was taken, the Alpha explained. Sure, he did not want the king to think he was hiding a possible threat that could harm him. What is she? The voice was low, and it left my bones cold, left me pale where I was, yet somehow I knew it was not the king himself asking, it was one of his guards. We don't know. As far as we know, she is not a werewolf. She has no abilities, and the only thing she can do better than most of the pack members is run. The Alpha explained with everyone else silence. I felt someone walk all around me. Large bare feet walking all around me until they stopped. Do your females train? The man asked again, with me frowning as if any of it was my business, but the king was not talking, just his men. The Alpha hesitated, hearing a sound pulling from his mouth, before he closed it and did it again. No, Your Excellence, Alpha Graham said, and just from that answer I heard some movement from my left. I looked up. The king turned away with all the other men he came with circling all around him as they walked away in long, fast strides. My heart stopped oppression, not even sure why. Why was he leaving? He had not picked. He had not even said a single thing. I stared up, all eyes at the departing party, with wide eyes probably wondering what was happening as well. The man who had been asking questions stayed back, still next to me. The next thing I knew, my body was picked up with it flung over the man's shoulder. I was too shocked to even fight, shocked on what was happening. My eyes were wide, not even able to stare at the pack on what was happening. "You should," the man said with his voice, harsh and commanding, sending chills down my own body. He turned and walked away with me over his shoulder, wide-eyed on what was happening. I tried to look up to the pack to see what was happening, but I could not. I did not know. But at that point I was too tired to care. I just let it all be. The king and his party was nowhere to be seen. My body was placed down at the very edge of the border as the man walked away. The thought of running away did not even cross my mind, having received the fade-awayliest stare, and I knew to behave. He went off behind a tree, knowing he was about to change. My body went paralyzed with nothing but fear as I shivered where I was. So many things ran through my mind, yet none making sense with my eyes wide. Any sound had me jumping. My red eyes looking all around, hearing the crack of bones, knowing he was shifting. What do they want with me? So many questions went through my head, yet no one to ask. The man walked out yet. He was no longer a man. The largest wolf I have ever seen stood before me. He was not a wolf, but looked more like a hound. Not even Alpha Greyhem was that large. Not even by chance. The wolf was dark gray in color with gray eyes which stared at me with no kindness at all. I turned so cold and pale I thought I might faint. My legs were fast to slip up, turning not even thinking over it as I ran for my life. I flew through the air, letting it carry me. I was not going to rest like that. I was not going to lose everything just like that. The tears streamed with me running, but I had been running all through the morning, and the tiredness came back at some point. I pushed on nonetheless. The adrenaline keeping me going, keeping me moving even faster. I felt like I had run miles, looking back now and again with the large wolf running behind me, but he was not running as if to catch me. I knew he could run faster than that. I knew he was slow, but why? Did he not want to catch me? Or he wanted me to wear out before tearing into me? It was the worst cruel trials anyone could do to another. I pushed on, the adrenaline washed away quickly. Everything in my body hurt, my bag bouncing back and forth on my back, adding to my weight. My jumps became sluggish, slipping and falling to roll down a hill, my eyes closed, seeing my death just then, as a scream pulled from me. The world went up and down before me, my hands trying to grip something but failing as I slipped further down until I hit a tree hard, groaning and crying out loud in pain. I thought I would rest, everything hurting so much. I had never felt such pain, the world shaking all around me. I thought I felt my soul slipping, but that was just the pain speaking. There was no getting up from that, tucked in the mountain tree real good. My watery eyes trailed, seeing the wolf stand at the very top of the hill staring down at me. He stared for a while before trickling away, leaving me there alone. The tears ran down my face. He knew I would not survive. He knew getting up from there would be hard, so he just left me for death. My heart felt as if someone just grating it to bits. I wept so hard until I oppressed on my own sob, and just in that dilemma I heard a snort, as if a wolf laughing at me. He got closer, my body naturally shrilling from him, having him growl at me in anger. He had a very short fuse, and I was sure he was beyond pissed, his eyes a shade darker. I shook my head, his teeth sinking in my leg with more tears pulling from me. The pain too much, I thought I would faint. He pulled my body out, my skin scrapping on the tree bark before he sank the teeth even deeper, then swung my body over him with it, hitting with an umph. The pain struck like lightning. The air sucked away from me with my eyes closing. I was sure I was dying. My head heavy with the pain throbbing in a way I never felt before. My body lay hopeless on him, straddled with my legs and arms hanging on the sides. My head lay on his fur, eyes opening to close with consciousness fighting to depart from me. I tried to hold on to it but failed. The wolf took off, running faster than it had before, tearing through the miles with my body bouncing up and down on his back. Nothing but darkness surrounded me, calling me with my eyes opening now and again, seeing the grass, seeing the trees slip away. He was deep in tall grass, it burying us in it with water under us, mud pulling on us, daring us to sink in it to our deaths. The sharp grass cut on my skin, leaving it burning and itching. My body slipped now and again, trying to hold on, but I was barely conscious. I felt myself sway, slipping with my body flying to fall in the mud. With a thud, my eyes flashed open. My head heavy, trying to stay up, but I was failing. The mud was swallowing me whole, realizing it was quicksand. The wolf stood a bit further away, realizing that he had intentionally threw me in there. I fought with all I had, but the more I fought, the more the quicksand swallowed me whole, leaving me crying out loud, crying to the wolf that just stared, watching sure he was enjoying the show. My tears cleaned my face, the mud getting up to my shoulder, and that was when he finally stepped a bit closer, biting a large wood stick, then moving it my way. It was a bit further, but I tried gripping it. My hand touched it, trying again to grip it. When the wolf saw this, he began pulling back. I pushed up with everything in me, my shoulders set free, but it was time before even half of my body was free. He pulled one last time, pulling me out as I fell confront of his paws. I did not know what his problem was. I stood up, every part of me aching, staring right into the eyes of the wolf. I picked up the wood he had dropped, holding it in hand and pointing it to him. I had never felt such anger in me, heaving and sure I would vanish this wolf if it was the last thing I did in my wicked life. "What is wrong with you?" I shot out, sure to whack his stupid ass even if it led to my death. "If you want to vanish me, then do it and stop this cruel trials. I have had a long, hard life, and I don't have the patience for your stupid theatrics. Vanish me or let me go so I can make my way to wherever." I screamed, staring fade away at him in the eye with such anger. The wolf just stared back at me as if bored, not saying anything. I shook my head. What was the point? The wood was dropped on the ground before turning around in nothing but anger and walked away. I was fed up to the point of no return. I did not care what he did to me. I was walking away if he wanted to vanish me then. So be it, but I was walking away to my own freedom. I turned storming away with my body heavy with mud, yet nowhere to clean it. I shook my head, cursing over and over again as I walked away. It was about 5 minutes later when I stopped, turning around to find the wolf just behind me, bored to no end. I frowned. What was up with him? "Shoo? Go. Where is your king? Leave." I told him with him not saying anything. He just growled at me, his eyes sure warning me. I sighed, turning around and on with my journey. The sun was hot, the mud drying on my skin having it sore. The pains I felt were too much for me, but I swallowed them, telling myself they would make me stronger. The sun would set soon, and we were still in the middle of nowhere. I picked up my pace, seeing that if we spent the night where we were, who knew what would come out and eat us. I walked on until I could not walk anymore. My legs were shaking. Sure I would fall, and I was so exhausted. It was decided I needed some rest. I looked around. If anything wanted to vanish me, then it could go ahead, but I was done for the day. A sigh pulled out from me, my hand going to my back, realizing I had lost my backpack. I froze where I was, everything to my name lost, just like that. My body staggered, just deciding to sit down right there and then. Too much had happened in that day, and I needed to process. My butt hit the ground, the wolf immediately pushing me with his nozzle. I sighed, turning to look back at him in frustration. "You can pass. There is so much space for you to pass," I said to him, too tired to even fight with him. He growled loudly, scaring me as I jumped up in fright. Just when I thought we were understanding each other, he went all scary on me. My crimson glow ran cold. He bit into my t-shirt, it tearing with his teeth, sinking in my arm as I cried out and tried to fight him off. But who was I talking about here? My body was thrown on his back so swiftly with him running off. I sighed, my black crimson glow melting into my t-shirt as I felt my wound close up, but the pain still there. My head lay on his fur, holding on with him, running. He ran all through the day, the night breaking as we went through a dark forest. Goosebumps covered my body, my eyes looking all around, not seeing anything scary. My ears were wide open as he ran for his life. It was the highest speed I had seen him run as he tore through the forest, like there was no tomorrow. I held on to him, and as we made our way through it, I felt a certain warmth spread all through me. I could hear his heart drum, his heat sipping into my skin. I got cold easily, so him being there was a blessing to me. Somehow through that night I felt nothing but trust for him in a way I could not explain. My hand was brushing through his fur, calming him down in a way I did not know where I learned. I felt his joints move right under my touch, my eyes closing. It felt like I was connecting to him in a way I had never connected to someone, and it shocked me to no end for the same feeling I suddenly felt for him was the same one I felt with Alpha Graham. I was connecting to him in a way I could not understand. My eyes opened wide. Sharp and red, feeling all my pain wash away. I sat up, an extra pair of eyes and ears, and I was sure my vision was clearer than his. I could hear a few animals, but they were far ahead, none that were near to threaten us. You could see that he was not used to the forests. He was full on concentrating, and as if laughing on our faces, the trail got thinner and rugged. His speed slowed down, carefully threading while trying to be as fast as he could. The night went on, thinking we would never get out of the forest. But we did. We broke through, and just at the end of the forest, my eyes took in the small stream, making its way down. The goddess worked in mysterious ways. My hand brushed on his fur with him quickly slowing down, understanding me. I slipped from the wolf, my sneakers touching the ground heavy with nothing but mud. I took them off along with my socks, walking to the stream. I washed them first, then set them aside. My feet got in the stream only to hold the scream in, jumping around in nothing but pain, as if the water had swords piercing through my skin. They were so cold. A snicker pulled from the wolf, having me groan as I stared at him. I bent over, scooping some water, and sending them his way, not that my hands could carry much. My hands were so tiny, along with my feet, unlike all the werewolves I knew. They had large feet that left my mouth agape each time when I was young. The wolf shook its head as I sighed. I tried washing my leggings while wearing them, but it was no help at all, so I took them off. I washed my leggings, then pulled out my top and also washed it. My hair was also dirty, so I let it out, washing it, and by then I was blue. I jumped out of the water with my wet clothes. No idea what I was going to do since the morning was on us and it was so cold. I jumped all around with the wolf crossing the stream. I followed after, shaking and jumping behind him. I guess I would just walk around half majestic figure, not that it was an issue. Wolves shifted in front of others, basically seeing everything on a woman and man's body from such a young age. We walked for a while only to stop. I looked forward, then back, sensing that we were in packland. The wolf walked around, surely looking for a pair of clothes stashed somewhere. He went around the trees for some time as I jumped around over and over to get myself warm. I hoped we would not be attacked, but him being a royal wolf sure got him access. It was time before a man walked out of the forest. I took him up from his massive feet. I had seen feet before, but those were surely too large. I bit my lip, looking away. He wore shorts that were squeezing the hell out of him. It was hard not to laugh, deciding to just look away before I got vanished by laughing hard. I felt something brushing me, having me turn where I was, finding a large t-shirt on the ground. I picked it up, smiling. Thank you. I pulled the t-shirt on, it being a dress. It smelled of nothing but tree bark. Sure, he had dug it out from one. He walked away again, leaving me there. I decided to lay my clothes down then, sat down with my legs crossed while twisting my hair to squeeze all the water out of it. My head turned, the man back carrying wood which he placed down. He went away and I did not waste time. I wanted to be useful, so I brought the wood and stacked it in a way that would have it efficiently burn. He came back with some bark. It was called fire bark. When you put something wet on it for some time it burned. The man placed the bark on the wood, then went to my leggings, picking them up and tearing them, leaving my eyes wide open. The gasp was heard. I loved those leggings. He put them on the bark, and all we had to do from there was wait. The man sat down, staring at the wood as I stared at him. He was large, humongous. I was not one affected by their power, but I knew he was a high-ranking wolf. I just did not know how high. Werewolves just knew if a person was higher ranked than them in their ruling system, which was why all wolves bowed in the presence of the king, not that they could help it. I bit my tongue, opening my mouth to close it. He chose me, didn't he? I finally asked. I was not stupid. The man was leading me somewhere. He had not vanished me yet, so the only option left was that the king picked me. He did not say anything, did not even move, just sat there. I am sorry to bother you, but seems we will be traveling together. I don't know how far the royal pack is, surely far. Can you please just help me understand some things before we get there? Why would the king pick me? I am literally no one. You saw all those girls there. They are wolves, first of all. They are beautiful and just have the elegance of a queen. I set out, my hands on my knees, my legs crossed under me. I had so many questions, it seriously made no sense at all. Just in the moment, the bark sparked and created a fire. The wood slowly picked up the flame and began burning. The smoke filled the air, watching it dance in the gray eyes of the man. He was not old, he was young, but don't be deceived. Werewolf years were complicated. He could be of any age from 30 to 200. They reached an age where they stopped growing and lived for hundreds of years with their physical bodies never changing. I wondered how my lifeline went. I could rest just the next day. What if I did not live past a certain age? It could be 30. It could be 100. I knew nothing of the creature I was. The man suddenly stood up. He walked off with me left staring at him walk away. Where was he going? Sorry, where are you going? I asked, looking all around. He could not just leave me. If patrol found me alone, they would vanish me right there and then. Since I was not a wolf, the man did not answer. Of course he did not. He just went on his way, the forest swallowing him until I could not see him. I sighed, shaking my head with the fire bringing such heat it made me groan. I lay back. The fire so nice, just bringing nothing but the exhaustion back. I shifted to lay vertically to the fire, watching it crackle with my eyes daring to close on me. But we were out where people could attack. I could not just sleep, but I was so tired. My body pushed up, seeing that the position I was in would have me asleep in a wink. I sat up, my body rocking back and forth, much time having passed since the man left. I picked up my clothes, holding them to the fire one by one so they could get a fair amount of the heat. When tired, I put down the clothing I was carrying just as I heard a pair of feet coming my way. My body froze, but telling myself it was the man. I stared into the trees and after a few minutes saw him carrying a large container. I shifted, watching as he broke from the forest. He was wearing new clothes, a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt. My eyes went wide seeing his combed hair. He had taken a shower and just left me there. Ooh, wow! What a traitor! I thought we were in the struggle together, and he was getting first-class treatment. I internally scoffed and sulked. He even smelt so good. What I would do for a bath, as much as I had washed my skin, it was Spanish dirty at some point. The man placed the large bowl he was carrying, and in it was nothing but food. He placed the bowl in front of him, picking up a whole leg and chewing. He ate away as I stared, and after some time his eyes picked up to me, suddenly realizing he had to share his meal. It did not sit well with him, groaning where he was. I could have laughed really, his face as if to murder me. He slowly picked up his bowl and held it out to me. I smiled at him, shifting to pick a few vegetables, leaving the rest for him. I don't really like a lot of food. I like fruits and vegetables. Thank you for the food, I said to him as he frowned. Food was not food for a werewolf if it did not have meat in it, a large portion of meat. I chewed on the vegetables, them so good. When done, I brushed the bits from my hands and sat up staring at the man who was really attacking the food with no mercy. He ate it fast, leaving nothing behind. So, how is the king like? I asked, still not believing that the king chose me. Maybe he had not, which was why the man was not responding to my questions. Is he sweet and kind? Is he friendly and likes laughing? I asked, wanting to pull a reaction from the man, but he just ate away his food. He is probably gently and kind-hearted, I continued, trying to coax something out of the man, but nothing. We will dance around the ballroom, and he will sweep me off my feet and dazzle me with. He chose you because you are no one and have nothing, the man suddenly said, placing his bowl down and turning to stare at me as I stared back at him. I had been looking for answers, but his words came out cold, striking me so deep. The place you are going has nothing but death over it. He picked you because you have nothing to lose, and no one who cares as it's likely. Nothing but death is waiting for you there. The fire went out at some point, my teeth chattering in my sleep, my arms all around me as I crawled into a ball. My nose got blocked only to unblock itself, with the process going over and over again. I shifted and turned, not helping at all, rain pouring at some point with my eyes finally opening wide, all of me blue with nothing but cold deep to my bone. My eyes traveled to my right, the man just lying there staring at the sky, enjoying the view as the rain fell on him. I cursed over and over again, my lips as if to fall off. Sleep was not coming back to me, just letting the rain have its way on me. What I would do to be a werewolf at that point. He was warm, I could see with his skin the perfect color. Mucus fell to dry, the rain heavy on us, with me getting dirty from the splatter of mud as the raindrops hit the ground. My feet moved, jumping up as I picked up my clothes and folded them. All I needed was his fur, just to bury myself in it, and the only way to get it was if he shifted. I think we can continue with our journey. I won't be going back to sleep, and it doesn't look like you were sleeping at all. I am sure we have a lot of ground to cover, I said to him, sly little me wanting nothing but his warm body. The man said nothing back, cursing under my breath, with me deciding to hop around as a sort of exercise to warm myself up. I was just wasting my energy. Movement was seen, hope blooming in me. He stood up, stretched his arms, then walked to the forest. I nearly laughed in excitement, especially when I heard the bones crack. I even giggled, clutching my clothes. The large wolf came out, just holding myself from clapping my hands like an excited 5-year-old. He maneuvered his way to me where he stood. I did not waste time, hopping onto him with my stomach on his back before turning around and straddling on him. He was so warm I could just hug him. It was nothing but bliss. My skin on his fur, with it so hot it left goosebumps on my skin as the cold met heat. The rain was nothing on the heat I was getting. My face deep in his fur, holding on tightly, my clothes under me, squashed between us. I felt the sleep come back at me, smiling even wider as I let the darkness take me. It was the best sleep I had in a long time. I smiled as I woke up, my eyes taking the area around us, seeing that it was a cold day. I sat up, stretching carefully as the wolf ran so fast I could barely see anything. I could not stay up for long since the air was just blocking my airways with how harsh it was. I lay back on his back, closing my eyes. It was a vacation for me, as if flying in a warm bubble. I wondered how far we had gone. He was moving so fast in a way one would have thought impossible for a wolf, and I doubt he took a single break. He was probably tired, but I understood why the king left us behind. I was sure they were way far ahead from us, but what kind of a mate left their chosen with another man? I guess he really trusted the man I was riding on, or he just did not care. The second option was probably the one. Why would he care? He just picked a girl he hated the most. And left just like that. Some part of me had hoped that since he had picked me, my life would be better. I could start afresh and I would build something with him, but after what the man said, it looked like the king wanted nothing to be built. He needed a mate for political reasons, so he picked a random girl who he had no interest in knowing. I could already see my life. I could already see myself literally begging for his attention, which he would never give, and it already hurt even before the games began. How many more lashes could my heart take? How many more severe marks could it carry? I hoped a lot, for it was still going to be a hard, long life. The day went away thinking the man would stop and rest, but he never did. His speed decreased just a little, but from there he maintained it all day long. It was amazing, seriously. The night came, the darkness covering us as we passed more and more packs rushing back, chasing the king. I was worried, hours trickling away with the man still running. Was he used to it? I guess so. My mind went back to his words. He had said the place I was going to had nothing but death for me. He meant the war. I was going to see what nearly most of the wolves were oblivious to. The death war. I would be right in it, and if so, then surely they were taking me to my death. His words made sense. They could not take someone who was like Alyssa, who was beautiful and full of life, someone who had a loving family and friends, someone who could still marry someone great and live happily with beautiful kids. It would be cruel to take all that away from her, but me. I was the perfect cow to slaughter. My hand slid back and forth on his fur. I don't know why, but I felt like it eased away his exhaustion in a way. It was the fade away of night, and he picked up his speed, running like none I had seen. I lay my head down and found sleep with nothing else to do, and the next time I opened my eyes it was day. We kept going, running with animals, passing through large waterfalls and beautiful landmarks that stole my breath away. The ride quickly turned to an adventure for me. My eyes were wide, seeing different kinds of animals. I loved animals. I actually just loved nature. It was my dose of happiness. The animals ran after us in excitement as I stared back, giggling, wishing I could pat them. We went past the open land into another forest that was dense and dark, but the man never slowed down. He ran through, making it out as the day passed. Even I was exhausted. My skin hurt where it was touching on his fur. At some point I bled, but I healed immediately, it happening over and over again. He seemed determined, so I did not want to slow him down. I just shifted, my legs coming to swing on the side, my upper body laying on him and holding tightly. It was an awkward position, but it helped my inner thighs heal. The night went on. The man took a sharp turn, sniffing in the air with my head picking up. I shifted and got back to my straddling position while listening around, and that was when I heard the heartbeat of the animal he wanted. He went running fast, creeping behind bushes with me on his back, and in no time, he went for the vanish. I buried my face in his fur not to see. My heart broke, that poor animal. He tore it apart, the wolf eating so savagely, getting crimson glow all over his face and my hair too. I nearly puked all I had in me. The metallic smell of crimson glow hitting me up. Luckily for me, he did not waste much time on his dinner. He ate fast, and when done left the fadeaway animal there for the skybirds that ate fadeaway animals. It was just all disgusting for me. He tracked to a river where he drank water as they washed away the crimson glow, and I guess that was his pit stop. I hopped off, stretching my legs, getting some water to drink myself. Then peed. He was done, me getting up and getting comfortable. The adventure was nice. First time being away from my pack, but I really needed us to get to the royal pack at that point. I was fade away tired. The wolf leapt over the river and ran on. He ran through the morning, the day breaking with him, not taking it slow. The sun was out, burning down on me, and having me nearly rest where I was. My vacation turned to a cruel trials ride with me sweating buckets, my skin taking the brutal oppression of the sun rays. When the day ended, I was more than relieved, but I did not even want to see how I looked at that point. My clothes, which I had been holding, fell away at some point. And I did not care really. I just wanted to get to civilization, where I would sleep and not wake up for the longest time. The further we went, the weather got cold. It began raining again. Then white things fell from the sky. I guess it was too cold, the rain just froze in the air. That was the only explanation I could come up with. We reached mountains which the wolf began leaping up. His body heat was suddenly failing me with how cold it was. He jumped from rock to rock. It a dangerous route, which was why halfway through, he decided it was enough. Taking refuge in a cave, I hopped off, my whole body shaking as we went in. He went deeper in, and the deeper we went, the warmer it became. I went to lean on a rock. They were warm, and I got better. He did not change back to his human form since he did not have any clothes to wear. He just went to a corner where he sat and took rest. I decided to also pick a corner where I sat on the ground, but as I sat, something caught my eye. I shifted, moving to pick up the strand of fur. It was black in color, so long, and I just knew the king had been there. I was not sure it was his strand, but some wolves had also camped there. I wondered how far off they were. What if they had just left? But I am sure the man I was with could have known and rushed to catch up to them. I guess they were far off. My eyes stayed on the fur, not helping but to wonder what life waited for me where I was going. I wished for nothing but a kind mate. I wished for nothing but a mate that could just look at me and see me. I wished for nothing more than to belong to someone to call my own. My eyes closed, lying there with sleep, claiming me. The wind got harsher with the night, whistling where we were, knowing that outside it was bad. I shivered, the rocks no longer enough to keep me warm with no fire to help me. I opened my eyes, peering to find the wolf just lying there having the sleep of his life. I knew if I snuck to him, I would wake him up and he needed his sleep. He had not slept in so many days, and I could not even remember how many at that point. I would not rest from the cold. I hoped, my eyes closed, sleep not coming to me until late. I sank in sleep, shaking even in my sleep, and the next thing I knew, something smelling of nothing but stale, crimson glow was pushing at me. I groaned, my eyes opening and finding nothing but fur before me. I groaned and sighed with my body slow to shake off the sleep. A loud growl came from the wolf, it echoing all over the curve in a way that had all the sleep vanish away from my body just like that. I stood up quickly, staring at the wolf, him staring at me with his fade-awayly eyes as a shiver ran down my body. Even with all the time spent with him, he still scared the shit out of me. I climbed up on him, my inner thighs sore just as I sat. They had bruises, I was sure. I held on for dear life. He walked out of there, the mouth of the cave white with the frozen raindrops. They were still falling, harder than when we first climbed up, but better than at night for sure. The wolf jumped out. He was jumping from rock to rock. Fog was so thick you could cut it, barely seeing anything. The wolf jumped up a rock with the rock crumbling away. A whimper pulled from him as he went scrapping down the rocks trying to get his footing. Nothing but fur and crimson glow was left behind, him finally getting a rock stable enough. He whimpered again, scared to go up again. But he was a man. He was the kind of man that hated fear for sure. He went jumping up higher than before. My heart was doing nothing but crying out for him. I placed my hand in his fur, digging it in and touching the warm skin. I don't know what got into me, for suddenly I thought I could take away his pain. My eyes closed, feeling the darkness stir in me, my hand warm, probably his heat sipping into my own skin. I opened my eyes, feeling stupid really. Who did I think I was? Yet my hand never moved from his skin. He leapt over and over, falling a couple of times but getting up again. It was a long, torturous climb that left his hinds shaking. I hoped we would reach the top soon, for I was sure any time he would slip and fall back down to the bottom. I was sure that fall would vanish us. I prayed and prayed, both hands on his skin, because somehow in my mind I had created a picture, that I was this being that could take away his pain. It was silly, but hope never vanished anyone. I did not feel useless at all. I felt as if I was someone of importance no matter how little it was. The higher we went, the colder it became. The rocks were frozen with ice. My bare feet would do nothing but freeze to dysfunction if I even dared touch with a toe. He tried gripping with his paws, but he was having much difficulty. I did not see us surviving. I did not know how we would survive seriously. It seemed we were still far from the top. The wolf suddenly shook me off with a growl. My eyes went wide, knowing he wanted me to climb off him. I did not see a way he could continue climbing too. My head turned, staring down and nearly dying. Nothing but sharp rocks waited to catch us if we fell. My whole body froze and shook, yet he kept shaking me, and it was unfair to keep clinging to him when even my weight could have us trampling down. I turned slowly and carefully got off him. As soon as my feet touched ground, I thought I would rest. It was like knives cutting through, my skin sticking on the ice. If I stood there, my feet would be stuck and frozen on the ice. I jumped away, hopping over and over from one rock to the other, with such burning pain going through my body. Did I dare turn? I wanted to see what he was doing. My head turned only for me to frown in horror. The man behind me had returned to his majestic, untamed form. I leaped forward even faster, completely flustered by his overwhelming presence. If he landed on the same narrow ledge as I did, our proximity would be far too intimate. I jumped over and over, rushing with him fast behind me. He was taller, he was stronger, so he was just eating the distance away while I freaked the fur out. I moved faster, slipping now again, but too much in a dilemma to care. It seemed it would not end, heaving with nothing but exhaustion. The cuts opened and healed to open again and heal. It was pure agony. I wondered how the king and his men went through. Some part of me felt a bit angry. What kind of man left his mate to go through all this alone? And I was left running from a majestic figure man. He does not care. My inner voice screamed at me as I huffed. My legs were shaking at some point, so tired yet I could not stop. I thought I would fall, having been at it for the longest of time. I was sure it was midday, or even going for late afternoon. Everything hurt. We hopped and hopped only to look up and nearly cry out. I could see an apex and it could only be the mountain top. I rushed up, hopping with all the energy I had to reach the top, and nearly cried out in nothing but relief. I had climbed an icy mountain, who could say that? I was ready to collapse. My head turned back in excitement, only to nearly scream, chills going down my body. It was so wrong in all ways. The only tangling thing I was supposed to be seeing was my mates. My feet moved, rushing down the mountainside. I ran down, stones rolling before me. It was a long way, but because we were going down it would be faster and less straining. I hopped and jumped, running where it was less rugged. Could we get there already? I was tired. I slipped and hit with my butt hard on a hard rock, leaving me cursing over and over. The pain was too much, but I could bear through it. I stood up, running down and going for it. The skies got dark, which made it even harder to see the way, but the man was after me and I was not waiting to feel his majestic figure skin on me. I ran, jumping and dashing. I was surely going to tell the story to my children and grandchildren, for it was one for the books. It was midnight when we finally made it down. And I was done. The man leapt in the air only to hit as a wolf. My fade-away weight was thrown on his back, burning hot with my clothes wet and cold. We ran through what I would say was a frozen ocean, miles and miles. It was so beautiful to see, fish swimming right under us. It was one of the most amazing things to see, smiling with my arms stretched, wishing I could touch them. I closed my eyes, the morning breaking with me, fed up with how long the way was. I was sure a week had passed. The day moved on just as we finished the ocean. It had been so large, we jumped into a forest. The forest was so green it looked so unnatural. The air in it so different, like nothing I had ever tasted. No matter how tired I was, I could not help but sit up, my eyes wide, taking everything in. Such beautiful insects flying about in all sorts of colors. The forest was alive and so breathtaking. It felt like home. I closed my eyes, taking everything in, knowing we had arrived. We had arrived to my new home. My eyes opened, for suddenly we were not running alone. Wolves were beside us, running with us. They were smaller compared to the wolf I was riding on, yet they were still beautiful. I could not help the smile, everything so wonderful. We ran and ran until my smile slowly slipped. How far were we from the houses? Hours passed, I tell you, and all the excitement wore off, with my body shutting down. We went through rivers and around mountains. It was a beautiful pack, I will tell you that. All the other wolves suddenly fell away and turned back. I looked up just as the wolf I was riding on jumped through the forest, and my goddess. There were so many houses, all gorgeous, but then I realized it was not houses but stores. I gasped. I had never been to the stores. My pack did not have any. They were in the next pack, and I was not allowed to go out of the boundary. There were windows with things on them, beautiful things. I saw beautiful dresses. My excitement and happiness was cut short as people began walking out of the shops and watched. My body shot down, and yes, I was hiding. I dug myself as much as I could into the wolf, hiding from the eyes. I was sure they would put two and two together, and I was just not ready for the gasps and questions with the start of disapproval. We tore through the city, and it was large itself. I would come back when everything was sorted and explore all the stores. I could not believe it, though. I was in the royal pack. I was actually in the royal pack. I felt like screaming and jumping up. I was out of that prison. Elisa could not bully me anymore. I was finally free. I could make friends and start a new life. A breath escaped me, praying to the moon goddess or any other god my real people worshipped. Could they please help me make a beautiful life for myself? I was cruel trials enough. I surely had cried enough, and all I needed from there was just a good life. Nothing fancy, just my mate which I would treasure. A few friends that I would love with all of me and create a family. I prayed over and over until I felt the wolf slow down. My eyes flew open, seeing that we had left the city behind and we were going through more forests. I sighed, looking up, but it was not long before we jumped, and a very large stone castle came to view. I gasped, my hand coming to my mouth as I sat up and stared up at it. But a few people walked out of the door with me, ducking down. Not yet lovely people. Not yet. I looked like a wolf's ass, I knew, and I probably smelt like one too. It was not a look for first impressions. The people who were walking out of the castle seemed to be help. They immediately bowed where they were when they saw the wolf I was riding on. Their heads stayed bowed, knees on the ground. I sucked in a breath, wondering who exactly the man I had spent so many days with was. He had never said anything about himself. He actually had not said anything at all. He stopped right before the steps, and I knew it was my turn to climb down. I could not believe it was over. I turned and hopped off, nearly crying out, for my inner thighs were burning hot. I was sure they were red and had been bleeding at some point. I stared down, and indeed there was dried crimson glow smudged there. It was seriously not a good look for me. The men that were kneeling on the steps suddenly turned around, rushing back into the house. The wolf turned and tracked away. I was left wide-eyed. Was he leaving? Please, 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 may he come back. Imagine what I would do if he never came back. Just walk into the house like this, asking for the king. Wouldn't they chuck me out, especially with my different scent I wore, which stated that I was not a werewolf? The wolf went all the way around the castle, and the castle was huge, I have to tell you that. I shook where I was, promising in my head that if he dared leave me there, I would hunt him down later and show him what these fists could do. Please, please, may he come back. Time ticked away as I stared around. A few people were walking by, their noses swirling with them frowning. One was even just approaching when the man came to view again. He had turned back to his human, and I had never been so happy to see him. I could just hug him, I swear. The men that had went running in the house came back running down to stop at the very feet of the man that I had spent so many days with. They knelt down as all the others had from seeing the man. "Here, Your Excellency," one of the men said, holding out a thin blanket to the man who was apparently so important they called his Excellence. Who was he? I felt like my mind was going to pop. Had I been mistaken? Was he the king? But no, there was no way. He seemed a little less in power than the man that had chased me down the forest, back in my pack. The man walked to me, then threw the blanket he was carrying over me. He threw it in a way to hide me. My body was brought to him, his arm around my waist, and soon I was stumbling with him pushing me forward. Thank the goddess for my sight, for, if not for it, I would not be able to see anything. I walked, taking the steps. We went through the door. All I could see was the floor, my whole body covered except for my feet, which were dirty and crimson glowy. I really needed to clean myself. Commotion could be heard. People in the house. I could see the bent knees from under the blanket. "Your Royal Highness." His Excellency. My goddess, who was this man? I gave up finding out with all the praise said. I was sure all the siblings of the king were fade away as per word going by, but who knew? We got into something that moved up. It was a box that was flying up. I was shocked, wanting to see more of it, but I could not. A button was pressed with it moving. It finally stopped and its doors opened. Plush white carpets greeted us that looked as if feathers of the purest bird. It was breathtaking. We reached a large golden door, seeing the edge of it. It was opened, swinging open with marble tile greeting me. The blanket was pulled away with the man pushing me in as I stumbled, nearly falling. His push had been rough. I caught myself to turn and stand up straight, staring back at the man who we went through a lot together. I was going to miss him, I won't lie. He stared back at me, seeming so rough himself, needing a shower, some shaving, and surely some rest. "This is your room," he said, as I nod my head, not even believing. "Thank you for everything," I said to him, wishing at some point we could be friends. "The king will come before morning," he added. Those his last words before the door shut closed right on my face. The door was shut right before my eyes, the impact nearly knocking me off my feet. My heart drummed hard, my feet staggering, seeming like the exhaustion taking another turn. I turned, my body swinging as I stumbled away. My eyes could see the large golden pillars with the high ceilings which had painted wolves like angels, yet too tired to even pay much attention. There was a dark door which I went through to pause, the breath knocked out of me. It was a garden. It was a very large garden with beautiful flowers and tree climbers all over the black tiles. The floor was of stone pebbles, not sure if they were real or fake. It was so beautiful, but looking even further in I saw the golden tub that was so large it could accommodate so many people. If it was not for the fact that I felt so faint, I would have marveled at such beauty. I already knew I would spend so much time there. My head turned, seeing the large shower that had so many shower heads which were blinking the color green. It lighted up the whole bathroom, making it dim, so you did not even have to turn on the lights. Towels were hung on wooden hangers, gray with a golden brand, which was a crown in the center of a circle. The pebbles under my feet were warm, a therapy for me as my feet were aching in a way I had never imagined they could ache. My feet carried me back to the room. The towel that wrapped my body was left on a tub chair, by the bed, only to collapse on the large bed fit for royalty. It was as if I had fell on the largest bird wings. I shifted and pulled back the sheets to slip inside, and that was the last thing I remember before everything went black. I never dreamed. Dreams were things I heard others talk about. The darkness stirred all around me. A sound pulling from me with my body turning around in the silky sheets. My eyes flickered open to stare directly into golden ones. My breath was knocked away. the king frowning with me, pulling away just a little, and I knew my eyes were filled with nothing but dark matter. I closed them, taking a deep breath, feeling the darkness subside in me, and when I opened them again, they were red. His face was cold. No kindness in there, no care or even lust in those eyes that stared back at me. "What are you?" he asked. His voice so deep it had chills run down my body, a shiver leaving goosebumps, and all hair on my skin soaring. His face was caged by the darkness, his eyes shining brighter than I could recall. He had a scar running down his left side, it calling to me with my fingers itching to rub on it. My nipples went hard, probably from the cold as my body went hot and cold. "I don't know, Your Highness. I wish I did." I spoke out, my voice soft, filled with bits and pieces of sleep. My eyes closed to open. The exhaustion still there, pulling me back to my darkness slowly but surely. "And I don't have the time nor patience to find out," he said coldly, the ache straight to my heart as I swallowed. I blinked, him still there. My eyes opened, seeing the king standing away staring down at me. No emotions on his face, as I begged him with my eyes to help, but he just stood. A knock came at the door, my eyes closing to open as a man walked into the room. "Your Majesty, we have to go. The troops have met a problem." "Where is the pack doctor?" The king, his eyes holding mine, crying out where I was and rolling. "He just ran out to the troops. The rogues jumped out along the way," the man said, with my mind shutting down just there and then. I needed him. Goddess, I needed him. I heard a sigh, and I knew. I just knew. I thought he would come back. I prayed for him to come back, begged with all I had in me for him to come back, but he never did. He left me alone to rest in my pain, with it burying me whole. It buried me so deep I got paralyzed. I could not move. I could barely blink, my body just quivering in pain with it, so pale. And it was in that dark night that it happened. I felt it as it happened. My eyes closed, a prayer set out in the air with my heart slowing down until everything went black. Nothing but darkness, my body swirling all around it as it seeped into me. Was I fade away? I thought I was, but it did not feel like I was fade away. Time went on, knowing the days were passing as I swirled in darkness. It was as if I was alive but fade away at the same time. I could feel what was happening all around my body yet. I could not interact with the living. My body just lay there, still not even sure if I was breathing. A man kept coming, questioning what was wrong with me. I would guess he was the pack doctor. He tried to feed me different things until he gave up. My body was wrapped in a sheet and put aside as the bed was taken out with another placed clean sheets on it. I was bathed by a few females that cursed me right to my face, telling me to rest for I was a freak. They laughed and wished nothing but bad luck for me. One even came and put a pillow over my face, the darkness swirling all over me faster. And that was the day I found out I was not breathing and that my heart was oppression so low, barely alive. They were certain I was fade away and were just waiting for the king to come back and tell them what to do. They stopped coming at some point. My door shut, with everyone told to respect the fade away. Time went away, fighting with all I had to get out. I needed to get out. I was not ready rest, but something held me down on the bed. I pushed my body to move, but it never did, stuck in my own body to rest there. Even the tears did not fall. Everyone was right. I was fade away. Was it how it felt like to be fade away? Was it how it felt like to depart from the world? It was an agonizing sensation, hearing and feeling everything, yet trapped in a deep lethargy, unable to move a single muscle. It felt as though a heavy shadow was sealing my destiny. How cruel could this world be? Who had I wronged in the world to deserve such a fate? My heart broke 1,000 times as I gave up. I let the darkness take me away as I drifted into it. Everything went black, with nothing heard or felt, until my body shot up with a gasp, pulling from me. The air was sucked in, coughing over and over again, as the pain hit hard. My eyes flushed open only for me to shut them closed. They hurt so bad, as if someone was just washing them with a rough cloth. My hands came to my hair, running through it with a sigh pulling from me. Beads of sweat covered my forehead, my body aching so bad it was too much. My body fell back in the bed, trying to open my eyes again, but they hurt even worse. I turned upside down on the white sheets, letting sleep take me away. I woke up and went back to sleep a couple of times. The day passed along with the night, and when morning came, I felt better. My feet swung over the bed, my bladder full needing to be relieved. My eyes flung open, the pain gone but the left eye itchy. I sighed, my body numb. I had felt so much pain I could not feel it anymore. My feet were cold, my whole body cold as I went to the bathroom. I sat down on the toilet to pee. I wiped, then decided to hop in the shower. I felt dirty. I got in, washed my hair first, face then body. I stopped in the process, my heart drumming as my hand came up, bringing the loose hair hanging before my eyes. I frowned, seeing white strands of hair before me. I gasped, pulling more of my hair, seeing more white hair. What was happening? I jumped out of the shower, wet feet patting the ground, slipping now and again. My hands were on the floor to break the fall with another gasp pulling out of me as tears filled my eyes. I stood up straight, my hands brought to my face. I could not believe it. I rubbed on my fingers, trying to remove the stains, but they never left. They were part of my skin. I shook hard, rushing to the mirror, only to gasp. My fingers, all 10 of them, were black. Everything black, as if I just dipped them in black oil. My nails, everything was black. I could not believe it. My hair had white strands all over my left side. One side was pure black, and then the left side of my head had white hair mixed with black strands. But the white was dominating. I could take all that. All that was not what had me faint just for that second. All that was not bad compared to my eyes. My right eye was completely black. I could not understand. It only happened when I was mad, but it was just black no matter how many times I blinked over and over again. My left eye seemed to be gray. I could see some white dulling the black in it. I held on to the sink, the room swirling all around until I felt my body float in the air. I expected to touch ground, but I never did. I could not even faint right. My eyes shot open, my body suspended in air. I was totally losing my mind. I was going insane. I pushed my body up, pacing back and forth to slowly slide down the wall to cry hard. I cried until I could no longer cry anymore. What would I do? What was happening to me? I already endured so much cruel trials just because I did not have a wolf and smelled different. My eyes and fingers would just be a beacon for me. They would call me all sorts of names. I felt weak and sick to my stomach, and I hated everything about me. I don't know how long I sat there, but I knew I could not sit there forever. I had to stand up. I cleaned the bathroom, then walked out to my room. What would I even wear? My eyes wondered about seeing another black door on the right side of the bed. I walked to it and pulled it open, seeing nothing but clothes. There were a lot of clothes, sections of it with islands in the middle, with different things that some girls used to highlight their faces. I walked in slowly, my heart too sore to wonder at all the beauty. My feet carried me in, a tear dropping with my body moving as if a wave of water. I felt as if I was walking on air, just oblivious to everything. I sat down in one of the islands in front of the mirror. I stared at myself, my eyes large and filled with darkness. It was unnatural even for me, but I could not change it. I was different, and there was nothing I could do about it. A brush was picked up, brushing my hair back slowly while staring at it. It was long, thick, and shiny, with the black so black it was unholy while the white so white, shining on its own. I had never seen something so white, nor something so black. I combed it back until my skull hurt. Not even one strand breaking out. I tucked it behind my ears, my face left there for me to stare. My face was heart-shaped, my jaw sticking out a bit with not even a single spot on my skin. My skin was a bit pale, paler than normal, with it as smooth as it had always been. It was just the perfect contrast to my eyes and long lasers. Even my lashes were turning white on the left eye. I sucked a breath, my black finger brought before my eyes. The rest of the hand was pale, but the fingers themselves were black. It was wicked, it was ungodly. I shook my head, scared of what I was, but I was what I was. My neck turned, wanting to see if I had the mark of my mate. It was there, yet as everything else it was black and white. There was a large circle. My fingers brushed on it, feeling the 4 teeth punchers, and in the center of them was the crown showing that I was mated to the alphaking. Touching it had a shiver run down my body, my hand falling away as I blinked the feelings away. I was not a child anymore. I had no one to protect me, and all I had was myself. It was not going to be easy. The only happiness I could get was that I make myself. My mate did not care. He left me not caring if I rest or not. Just thinking about it sent my heart in an explosion of pain that left me shaking. I had to accept pain. Make pain my friend. I would take it in and let it turn me stronger. If a freak was what they all saw, if evil was all they thought when they saw me, then so be it. My eyes flickered, staring at the different shades of lip stainers. I picked one that had my heart drum. I brought it to me to open the lid. My finger went in, dipping it, and brought the stainer to my lips to paint them black. I wished I could paint the whole world black, wished I could just scream and paint it all black. My head tipped, staring at myself in the mirror, embracing who I was, who I have always been, and just been running away from. My body picked up, head held high. My fingers ran through the clothes only to stop, my eyes falling on the red dress. It was so beautiful, drawing and wicked. My back would be bare, the top of it a high neck. I pulled it out, unclipping the tag to throw it away. The dress was unzipped, pulling it down my head, shimmering it on my body as it hugged me as if my second skin. It was zipped up, it fitting me so well. I walked on, stopping in front of a pair of black heel pumps. I slipped them on, complete and needing nothing else. I took one look at the mirror and turned around to walk out of there. I quickly made the bed. Then when done, sat on it. My heart was oppression because I was not sure I could do it. I was not sure I could be the person I had to be yet. I could not stay in that room forever. I would be a queen soon, so I had to act like one. I was a Luna as of then, and I wanted to do justice to the role. If kindness did not work for everyone, then I would be as wicked as the woman who raised me. Raven was fade away. Someone stronger, braver, and more dangerous had taken over.